So, welcome everyone to Cancer Convos with Grace B. This is your host, Grace B, coming to you from New York City, the city that never sleeps and is home to Cancer Convos with Grace B. So, welcome, guys, and here's wishing you a happy Thanksgiving. So, in this episode titled Coherence, the Power of the Mind Body Connection, it is an extreme honor to host my amazing guest who is conversant about how this connection plays a significant role during and after any traumatizing health condition or whatever condition you might find yourself in. What usually happens is that according to research, and this is so integral to our overall health, as we shall soon be learning from our esteemed guest. So, Bruce Cryer, who is our amazing guest today, has been involved with integrative health and healing, both personally and professionally, for more than 4 decades, and has been adjunct faculty at Stanford University since 1997, teaching at the School of Medicine, the Graduate School of Business, and Stanford's Be Well program. Bruce Cryer was named Chief Executive Officer of Heart Math in 2000, having helped launch the Heart Math Institute with founder Doc Child in 1991. He has in addition consulted with the Mayo Clinic, Kaiser Permanente, Duke Healthcare, Grinnell Regional Medical Center, and the NHS UK. He has worked with thousands of nurses, doctors, and allied health professionals in dozens of hospitals and healthcare settings. Might I also add that this inspiring gentleman is a 12-year cancer survivor and thankfully whose health is once again robust and vital. Outside of work, Bruce can be found singing in New York City or teaching masterclasses on creativity and well-being. He is executive director of the Integrative Health Institute at Salem University and is founder Renaissance Human. So I've said it all, but without further ado, let me welcome Bruce Cryer to the show. Welcome, Bruce, and I'm so honored you could come on. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. If you'd gone on much longer, I would have suggested let's have an additional session of just actually having a conversation. What a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. And it is an honor to be here. You're a delightful person. I really look forward to this conversation. And I hope it can help a lot of people all over the world.
Thank you so much. We are very honored to have you, honestly. Thank you. So let us dive straight into the topic. Since I've already introduced you, anybody would, have to read my notes after the show. For our audience who may not know what integrative health is, before we go on, could you please explain what it is?
Sure. Over the last 30 or 40 years in the West, concepts uniting the various aspects of our well-being have risen to the surface more and more. The idea that we are not just a physical body, but our mind affects our body, our emotions affect our body, our spirituality or our sense of a power greater than us affects our body, and vice versa. So it's really an integrated system of mind, body, emotions, spirit. And science has tended to want to separate it and just say, well, let's just treat the physical body, treat its symptoms, and okay, if there were some stress issues, okay, maybe that had an impact, or if there were some emotional issues, maybe that had something to do with it. But um, Western medicine, for the most part, has not taken seriously the idea that we are integrated humans of all
Mhm.
of those dimensions. And so integrative health and integrative medicine attempt to not only recognize that we are as humans all of these facets. I love to just use an example of when I sat in the doctor's office in November 2009. I already had been told they had found a large tumor in my body, and I didn't know yet that it was cancer. But the doctor went on to say that based on where it was in my body, it had to be cancer. So as he said, as the realization dawned on me, I'm one of those people. I have cancer in my body as we speak. The question then I asked the audience, do you suppose it was just my body that responded to that word? Of course not. My mind was going a mile a minute. My emotions were, there was fear, there was projection into the future. And even my spirit was saying, why me? Why now? I don't fit the profile. All these excuses or just questions. And so in a moment like that, it's obvious we're all those things. We're all those parts. We're not just the body. We're not just the mind. We're all of it. So integrative health as a field not only addresses that we are all these parts, but also addresses the reality that we may to heal the emotional part of the disease or the mental part of the disease may require something entirely different than what you need to heal the physical part. In other words, multiple modalities often are needed. Meditation is often extremely important to anybody dealing with cancer, let alone many other chronic illnesses.
Mhm.
Exercise, diet, your sense of well-being. How is your work? Is your work satisfying, or is your work killing you? And maybe this is a wake-up call that something needs to shift there too. So integrative, the best practitioners of integrative medicine, integrative health, recognize these dual facets. We're multiple systems all mixed into one, but we also may need multiple modalities because there could be several things really at the root cause of why we got ill, not only that it's a physical result to a
Mhm.
physical cause.
Absolutely. So, I would like, us to know more about your physical health challenges and how you were able to channel your knowledge of integrative health with your diagnosis, because now there are a lot of cancer patients and cancer survivors who tune in because of this and would be very interested in knowing how you were able to use the tools at your fingertips to be able to surmount their own diagnosis. So, could you please tell us, you know, what, you've already said, yes, as soon as you got the diagnosis, it was a why me. But at the same time, is it a fight or flight mode? How were you able to use these tools to be able to face your diagnosis, please?
Yeah, thank the great question, very profound question actually. Well, it was a very interesting visit because this doctor I had never met before. He was a new doctor and a urologist, so that gives you an idea of where where the cancer was. And now I have been on a spiritual path for more than 40 years. I've
Mhm.
been meditating more than 40 years. I had been experimenting with my diet going on 50 years. So these
Wow.
concepts of integrative health and holistic health were not new to me. In fact, that was another part of the why me. I've been doing all these things, and how come I get it right? Um, but in the meeting with the doctor, as I was
Mhm.
going through these emotions, he had researched me before I got to his office, which shocked me. Like, do you Google all of your incoming first time patients? That he couldn't do that,
Mhm.
but he had checked me out, and he knew that I was a speaker. He knew that I traveled around the world. He knew I was involved with some integrative ideas. He had heard about this heart math organization that I helped to create and launch back 30 some years ago now. And so as he was kind of describing the process that there would need to be surgery, he was confident that it wasn't advanced, that the tumor, while large, was probably fairly slow growing. He just sensed that from my overall sense of health and well-being. And he described after the surgery, I would be doing these immunotherapy treatments. He didn't believe that I would need more than immunotherapy. He did not believe chemo or radiation would be required in my case,
Mhm.
which I was relieved to hear that it wasn't so severe, he thought. But we didn't know until the surgery. He couldn't predict anything with certainty until we'd actually gone in. But as I sat there listening to all this, and at one point he brought up, and he knew I was a speaker, and I said to him at one point, so doctor, I'm scheduled to go to Europe for 2 weeks on business, and it's to train trainers in the healthcare system of the UK with this process called HeartMath. I said, if I am in any way risking my health by doing that, I will cancel. I'm not trying to push you to say yes, 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 you got to go. He said, no, we should be okay. We can do the surgery right after you get back. And that was a relief because I thought, okay, he's going to be a straight shooter with me. He's going to say, no, 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 you do not want to be going on an airplane. We need to take care of this right away. So that gave me some comfort that, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that bad in his mind, and he's the expert. So, but I said to him at the time, uh, because of this idea that I was a public speaker. I said, well, he said, your attitude seems to be pretty good. I said, well, I'm pretty clear on one thing. Um, I will have a story to tell, and I will want to tell the story. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling
Yeah.
whatever happens, I need to share it with whoever wants to hear what my experience is and what it takes me through. And he said, well, that's a great attitude. And he's kind of like, wow, amazing. And I said, well, I'm very clear I'm at a fork in the road right now. And it would be very easy to go down the left-hand path and just fall into fear and angst and anxiety and frustration, whatever is the particular cocktail of negative emotions I want to experience. And I said, I maybe, kind of wanted to head over there from time to time, but I know enough about my life, my spirituality, that it's time to pick a positive route as much as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he said, well, that's great. What a great attitude to have.
Yeah.
So, so that was part of it, that I realized this was a choice, and as
Mm-hmm.
do anyone getting a diagnosis of a word, right? It's the word cancer. Just as in the first year or so, even the word COVID, getting COVID. Oh my God, you know, when AIDS first came out, everybody was
Yes.
dying of AIDS. There was no survivors. So you hear
Yes.
that word, and suddenly everything gears goes into fight and flight, and of course you're potentially accelerating the disease by that strong negative reaction you're having. So
Anxiety and all. Yes.
yeah, all that was part of it. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So, how were you able to find, what should I say, sources of inspiration and positivity when you got this? You, yeah, as a cancer survivor myself, I mean, when I got my diagnosis, it's easy to say yes, you're trying to think positively, but there had to be something constantly giving you that drive to remain positive, as difficult as those times were. What were your sources of inspiration?
Well, I alluded to this idea that of heart math, that it's a system of engaging your heart, of living more in sync with your heart, of allowing the heart intelligence of each of us to run our lives instead of only the mind or
Hmm.
only the emotions. And so I had been teaching that for 20 years at that point, let alone practicing it for all those years. And so it became fairly obvious to me I needed to go even deeper in that practice, that my body needed to be loved, not fought. I don't believe in the idea personally that it's a battle. You have to do battle against whatever the disease may be. I believe that that could work. You could be lucky, and that could work, and do that combined with whatever chemo you might need, or radiation, whatever. But I believe that the cells need love, and our
Wonderful.
system needs love. Our emotions are very tense through all of this. And my particular journey, the surgery went well.
Hmm.
When they found that the tumor had not attached to the wall, the cell wall, which was good, which meant it had not spread. It was only stage one, which is way better than what it could have been.
Yeah.
Then the treatments began shortly after, about a month later, and BCG is what they recommended in the case of the cancer I had. And unfortunately, after the first treatment, when I went back for the second, they discovered a staph infection in my blood or in my body, and so I couldn't have the treatment; had to delay. And then I had the next treatment, and then I went back for the third treatment, and another staph infection, and I had to delay again, and went back for the next treatment, and another one. And so, what's going on? Why do we keep getting these staph infections? And finally, I'm getting on an airplane to go to a nursing conference, 4-hour flight from me, um, we had taken off. I'd forgotten to turn my cell phone off. I looked down, it's ringing. It's my doctor saying, you probably don't want to travel anywhere right away because you've got another staph infection. I said, well, it's too late for that. We have taken off. I'm pretty sure I can't ask the pilot to
To
turn
turn
around.
back. Mm-hmm.
So, and I was feeling symptoms. I was feeling feverish and like a lot was going on in my body. And he arranged to have antibiotics waiting for me at a Walgreens in Indianapolis where I was flying to. And I kind of got through it, but I had a couple days of walking around knowing I wasn't contagious, but
Mm-hmm.
feeling fevers and feeling run down and just feeling terrible. And it was sometime after that when I finally got home that more tests happened. And finally, the doctor called me one day and said, "It appears that the staph is now in your blood." And
Oh, wow.
I knew what that meant, that that's a life-threatening condition because it could get to your heart and you could stroke. And so he did tell me for sure, like, get your things together and go now. And so obviously I survived all of that, and I had to wear a PICC line for 6 weeks. They couldn't actually find the source of the staph in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
All the tests, echocardiogram, everything they did, couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
So this was not lost on me, of course, that I'm dealing with now a potentially life-threatening staph infection as a result of the treatments that I was getting for the other life-threatening condition, which was the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can laugh about it now. At the time, it wasn't exactly humorous. Luckily, I
Mm-hmm.
did get through it all finally after about 2 months of infusion of vancomycin, very strong antibiotic into my. This was MRSA, by the way. It was the hard to treat version of staph. So
Okay.
I went for the big one. You know, like if you're gonna have a staph infection in your blood, why not just go all the way to get the
Eat the
MRSA, which
frog,
is
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, through all of this, I was my own practice of trying to keep my emotions quelled, not allow the fear that was natural. I knew it was natural. I wasn't trying to criticize myself for now being fearful about the staph on
Mm-hmm.
top of potentially cancer recurring if that could have happened. But I was very conscious that every moment I had a chance to rest, I needed to really rest. I needed to, my body was now dealing with multiple things. I was still healing from the surgery, trying to make sure it wasn't going to come back, and now dealing with the staph infection in my blood. So as more rest. I lived in an area in Central California, in a redwood forest, not only half an hour from the Pacific Ocean. It was this pristine paradise kind of place to live. I couldn't, to have cancer, living there was one of the best uh, places you possibly could have been. So I was every chance I could. I remember when I was having to do this infusion of the antibiotic into this PICC line in my arm. This was 3 hours every morning and 3 hours again late afternoon, evening. So every day,
Wow.
6 hours, and that went on for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would get outside on my deck with the bag on the pole with my arm, attached to it, just sitting there taking pictures of the fog burning off in the mountains or the dew on the deck or whatever I was seeing. It's a lovely view where I could sit
Mm-hmm.
and just to be in the sunshine, be in the fresh air, do things for my spirit because I knew my body was really, really suffering. All these things were going on
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously. About 8 or 9 years earlier, I had been diagnosed with arthritis in both of my hips as a result of a scoliosis that was discovered when I was about 15, running on roads for too many years, not realizing what impact that could have on my hips. And so I've been dealing with hip pain for a number of years, and it was getting more and more restrictive. Once I was almost anything because I thought this is not okay that I cannot walk and let alone hike or do the things that I love
Yes.
without feeling like I'm an 85-year-old man and I was only in my mid 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm dealing with that in a more extreme way as well. So I had to do a lot of work to make sure that I was resting deeply, that I was finding things to appreciate. I had a very wonderful care system, not only my wife and daughter, many
Mm-hmm.
friends in the heart math community, people around the world that who were
Mm-hmm.
close to me. I mean, I didn't publicize it all when I was going through all this. I
Mm-hmm.
waited before I started sharing a little bit longer,
Yes.
but a lot of support, a lot of care, and but I was very conscious that this is I'm going through a massive reset, and I don't know where it's going to go, but
Yes.
I need to do everything I can to be quiet inside and be appreciative inside and still express the values that I believe in, which is to treat others with kindness and compassion and
Mm-hmm.
generosity of spirit and to love everybody I possibly can as much as I possibly can.
Yes.
And so those core values that I've been trying to live for many decades already, now it's kind of like hardcore. Like, okay, this now it really counts
Yes.
because your body needs that. Your body needs that. Yes, humanity needs all those things, but your body needs you to be putting that kind of energy out into the world and
Mm-hmm.
into itself, not just fear and worry and all that kind of thing.
Anxiety and fear and worry. Yes, exactly. Oh my
Exactly.
goodness. You're so right. And actually the I would say support system is also very important um during times like this because you could have all the right tools, you could have the best doctors, but without a solid support system, uh,
Yeah.
honestly, for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, as you rightly have attested to the fact that, wife, daughter, friends, those are, like, what should I say? That's bringing your A game on. They really are, the fabric of the whole healing process, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wonderful, Bruce. So as being co-creator of this hard math system, with the founder that I had mentioned in the intro, what exactly is the overview? Now, if somebody wants, like the title of this is Coherence, Mind-Body Connection, and that is kind of in sync with the hard math system, but for those that are watching, what exactly is the overview of the hard math system and the techniques and the tools and who are you targeting with this system? Is it meant for anybody, regardless of a health scare, or probably somebody who's lost a home or somebody who's going through a divorce? Could these tools be used? What is it actually, please?
Sure. Well, let me start with that last question of who is it for? And
Mm-hmm.
we used to joke in the early years of HeartMath that we had a hard time thinking of anybody who wouldn't benefit
Mm-hmm.
from the tools because it's not just about a severe health issue that, oh, now I need HeartMath. The masses of people deal with more anxiety and stress than they want to, and it's way worse now than 30 years ago when we were starting HeartMath, and so that's kind of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, part of our design of HeartMath, and it's continued really to this day, was to have different teams focusing on different segments of humanity. So
Okay.
from early in the genesis of HeartMath, there was a team working on education systems. There was a team working in healthcare. There was a team working in government and military. There was a team working in the religious organizations. A couple of years later, we actually started corporate. We didn't do corporate right away. We felt like we needed to get our act together a little while first and have enough
Mm-hmm.
data before we
Mm-hmm.
would approach the corporate market. But then
Mm-hmm.
about 93, we started in the corporate market. And that was, I raised my hand in an executive meeting and said, I'll take that on. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give that a shot, see what we can do there. So the fact that we had learned how to kind of talk different languages, if you will, the
Mm-hmm.
language of a mother who's the healthcare decision maker in the family and sees
Mm-hmm.
these tools as, wow, these could help my kids with test anxiety. This could help my aging parents with memory, with energy, with whatever chronic illness that they may be dealing with. These tools could help with the kind of emotional and mental component of it.
Mm-hmm.
The overstressed businessman or businesswoman who is feeling like their life has become one dimensional and that's called work
Mm-hmm.
and what, oh yeah, I have a family, don't I? And yet there's this obsession with work in some people. So we began to realize that we needed to design programs that were different based
Yes.
upon who the audience was.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about Stanford, and I appreciate your acknowledgement of all that. There were quite a few different audiences mentioned in that list of what I've taught at Stanford. It started at the business school. And so
Mm-hmm.
these were executives coming to Stanford to get MBAs and to go through executive programs.
Mm-hmm.
And Heart Math was part of that program for 12 or 13 years. Then the
Mm-hmm.
School of Medicine brought me in, and because they were running an employee wellness. And so for the employees of Stanford, for the staff, faculty, administrators, landscapers, housekeepers, everybody had a chance
Yes.
to take Heart Math. And although that audience had vastly different needs,
Mm-hmm.
I had in the same class, I had the treasurer of Stanford University and the head of landscaping in the same
Mm-hmm.
class.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you would imagine their jobs are rather different, but they were
Yes.
both, as were the rest of the class members, drawn to a system of tools
Mm-hmm.
that were based in science. And so now I'm getting back to kind of the first part of your question of what is it exactly? So,
Yes.
as you mentioned, HeartMath began in 1991 as a nonprofit research and education institute called HeartMath Institute. And
Mm-hmm.
it started where it still is in Central California. Santa Cruz Mountains is the precise area. And it was designed as a system of scientifically validated tools that would be so practical and easy to apply that literally anyone could learn them. And when I say
Yes.
literally anyone, the Institute today has programs designed for pre-kindergarten age kids up through hospice. So that is just about everybody. I mean,
Wonderful.
not newborn babies, they have a little hard time because they're all heart kind of anyway. So they have trouble following some of the scientific information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being facetious, but but this, but the key elements of HeartMath have always been simple, practical tools that can be used in the thick of life. You could be sitting in a meeting. You could be on an interview. You could be a job interview. You could be in a match, in a game. You could be on stage, and there would be a heart math tool that you could apply in
Mm-hmm.
that moment to balance your system, improve your well-being, improve your emotional state. And so
Yeah.
the practicality of the tools has always been paramount, always combined with a robust scientific approach to the data that we were trying to collect. And while we always saw ourselves as a holistic organization, integrative organization, we were very conscious that for adoption to happen in major health systems like the NHS, like Mayo Clinic, like Kaiser Permanente in California and elsewhere, in as well as major corporations, as well as science-oriented institutions like Stanford, required mainstream medical approaches, not just
Yes.
alternative medical approaches. We couldn't be proving things with alternative methods and expect to
No.
get respect from the leaders of huge organizations who
Yes.
made decisions. So we were very proud, and to this day, HeartMath is very much about collecting data, and there's a very
Absolutely.
strong belief in the intelligence of the heart, but constantly wanting to verify that in every new setting, every new situation where that may be being used.
Yes.
One of my favorite examples is the adoption among VA medical centers across the United States, therapists dealing with PTSD and traumatic brain injury soldiers coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever they've been, and finding enormous benefit in the techniques of heart math and later the technology of heart math. So there's like three areas: practicality of the tools, robust scientific
Research.
research, and then lastly technology. And so we innovated some technology several times, several versions over the past 23 years now, I believe, which allows you to see what's happening in your heart, not visually see it like you're seeing the heart pumping or something, but you're seeing the heart patterns, the heart rhythm patterns. HRV is the term, heart rate variability. So the technologies that HeartMath has developed, it's like feedback, instant feedback from your phone or from your computer screen through the apps
Yes.
that HeartMath created. So you can see instant feedback that as you move out of a frustration mode, which was what it looks like, this kind of jagged pattern I'm drawing with my finger right now. When you're frustrated, angry, worried, depressed, when you can move out of
You
that
can
using
see
your,
the,
it starts
you
to
can
balance out.
compare,
It
right?
starts to balance out and the pattern starts to get very smooth. The pattern of
Mm,
how your heart is increasing in speed and slowing. It's a beautiful sine wave. And you can teach almost anyone quickly how to produce that pattern, which is
mhm,
part of the beauty of this, how quickly it can work.
mhm.
Now, learning how to produce a pattern is one thing. Practicing that enough that you've really changed your state, that can take some time, but the benefits can be very quick and very
Yes.
easy to learn and very easy to apply. And that's been a lot of the attraction, combined with
Yeah.
all the scientific evidence. Now, last I heard, it was over 400 peer-reviewed studies on
Oh,
heart math
wow,
have
that's
been done around the
huge.
world, for peer-reviewed studies. So that's obviously far more credible than just saying a study that nobody has actually reviewed to see if it's valid scientifically.
Yeah. Oh,
So there's a lot to
wow,
be
that
proud of
is
and a lot that's
a
intriguing, I
lot to
think,
be
for people.
proud of. I'm so happy for, about all that you have done and have been a part of as regards heart math. We have a mutual friend, who has spoken about this, your work, and, knowing that you too, like me, is I forgot to ask, what kind of cancer did you have?
Bladder cancer.
Bladder cancer. Oh, wow. And thank God, touch wood, everything is okay right now. I have to bring you back
Yes.
on another show to be able to really go deep into the cancer, spectrum and how you were able to use all this to be able to face all that you have, been through and be able to, pay it forward with all that you are doing. I
Mm,
know
mm.
we don't have much time now, but you will be coming on shortly to be able to come do a part two with us as regards heart math and everything else. Okay.
Love to do that, Grace. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much for coming on and so wonderful to have, taken up your time. I'm happy you were able to, talk a lot about what you do and all that as regards heart math, as regards the heart challenge and the, brain and body connection. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank thank you very much, Grace. I really appreciate the time, and you're an amazing woman. I want to honor all that you're doing for
Thank
the
you.
cancer community as well as for humanity, even beyond.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your support as always, Bruce. Wonderful and honored to be in your space. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, my dear audience and friends, there you have it. You've been listening to the amazing Bruce Cryer. We could have gone on much longer, but I promise you, I'm going to bring him back for part two. So, as we usually say on this show, don't forget to do your medical checks because until there's a cure, prevention is the cure. All right. Thank you so much. God bless. Ciao, ciao.